Hey everybody, welcome back to Football Talk with Vinny. In today's video, we're going to be going over the playoff predictions. So in the last two videos, I went over who I think is going to make the playoffs, and in this video, I'm going to go over the actual playoff teams that I have making it and how I think the playoffs are going to shake out, and then ultimately who I think is going to get to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. So I'm going to try to just do this all in one video, not break it down, because again, we're just dealing with playoff teams at this point. So quickly, I have the AFC first. We're just gonna go over the seeds that I'm going to place on these teams. This again is just where I think they're going to finish in the regular season. So I have the Kansas City Chiefs finishing as the number one seed. Not too much to say there. Again, probably odds-on favorite to get to the Super Bowl in the AFC, and probably I think they are the betting favorites to win the Super Bowl actually. The number two seed, actually, I'm going to have the Tennessee Titans. I do think that they improved their roster a little bit. The defense was very bad last year, and if it can just play a little better, I think they can win a couple more games and get the two seed, which doesn't really do much now that they added that seventh team, so the second seed does not get a bye anymore. Number three seed, I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills. Very good roster, obviously top 5 quarterback in Josh Allen, so really tough to rank them any lower than 3. For 4, I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens, although at the recording of this video, I am doing this just before the Dallas Cowboys Buccaneers game kicks off, and it was just reported that Marcus Peters and Gus Edwards suffered to be torn ACLs. I think it'll probably be confirmed a little later tonight, but that is obviously a huge loss to start the season with. You're losing one of your top corners and one of the healthy running backs you actually had. And I think losing the corner is probably more important than the running back, because I think guys like Le'Veon Bell, who is on the practice squad, he could actually come in and be effective. Because again, I think their running game is really effective, not necessarily because of the back that they have, but more so because of Lamar Jackson and the attention he draws away from the running back. So the number 5 seed, I think it's going to be the New England Patriots. Like I said, I think they're going to give Buffalo a tough kind of run towards the beginning and middle of the season. I think maybe towards the end, Buffalo may pull away, but I do think New England is going to be good enough to get one of the wild cards. Number 6 seed, I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns. Now, obviously, with the Ravens' injuries, I think it kind of opens the door for the Ravens to maybe not win the division and maybe Cleveland to get in. And then number 7, I think who barely kind of makes the playoff and barely squeaks in, is going to go with the Indianapolis Colts. So obviously for the playoff matchups, you have the number 2 Tennessee Titans going up against the number 7 Colts. Obviously it's a divisional matchup, so it will be the 3rd time these teams have faced each other. I'm going to go with Tennessee winning at home as the 2 seed. Second matchup, you have the Bills and the Browns. This one was probably the toughest of the wildcard games that I had to choose, because although I have Buffalo as a 3 seed and Cleveland as a 6 seed, I do think Cleveland is probably the most talented roster from top to bottom. So again, at that point, if you really look at it player for player, there is only a few players on Buffalo's roster that you would probably give an edge to, right? But obviously the huge edge goes to Josh Allen. Really hard to pick against a team that has a significant edge at the quarterback spot. Obviously, we'll see how Baker plays in now his 4th year. If he makes significant improvements, he may be able to shorten the gap enough to where his team will take over and be able to win the game just based on the fact that they are more talented than Buffalo. But for right now, it's kind of hard to pick against a team that has a top 5 quarterback when the opposing team does not. So I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills on that one. Lastly, I have the number 4 seeded Ravens going up against the Patriots. And for this one, I'm actually going to have the wildcard road team win as the New England Patriots. I think it's going to be very close. I actually do believe that Bill Belichick is still a great coach, and I think he got kind of disrespected last year because the Bucs won the championship, right? So you're like, oh, you don't need Bill Belichick. It was more Tom Brady. I think it was both. I think Bill Belichick is going to be out to show everyone this year that his team is very good, and he's obviously a very good coach. I think, again, the fact that they won 7 games last year with the roster they had just speaks to how good he is. So I'm actually going to take the New England Patriots in this one. So for the divisional round, I'm going to have the Kansas City Chiefs going up against the New England Patriots, obviously this time without Tom Brady. So I do think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to be able to get it done and kind of win that ball game. And the second one's going to be the Tennessee Titans and the Buffalo Bills. Now this one, again, was a very tough one for me to choose again as well. But I'm actually going to go with the Tennessee Titans. I do think that getting Julio Jones is a bigger deal than I think a lot of people think. And who knows, when we go back and watch this, I may be wrong. But I still believe that Julio Jones is a top 10 receiver. I think he got hurt last year, and it is what it is. All players get hurt. But I don't think he's too old to where he's going to come back a shell of himself. I think he can still, and I think he will come back and show everyone he's still a top 10 receiver. And if he can do that, their offense is literally going to be unstoppable. I don't even understand how defense are going to try to stop it. Like, what are you going to do? What's going to be your game plan going to play Tennessee? Are you going to try to stop the run and force Tannehill to throw one-on-one outside to A.J. Brown and Julio Jones? Is that really how you want to get beat? Or do you want to get beat a slow and painful death by Derrick Henry just getting 5 yards to carry on you? Which means the AFC Championship game I have as a rematch of 2 years ago, with the Tennessee Titans going into Arrowhead to face the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm actually going to go with the Tennessee Titans on this one. Again, I think that it is tough to get back to the Super Bowl. Obviously, with the Kansas City, they've done it 2 years in a row now. It is very difficult to do it twice in a row, let alone 3 times in a row. And again, last year, they were close to not making it with Patrick Mahomes getting knocked out of a playoff game. So, sometimes injuries are just not on your side. Obviously, I think Patrick Mahomes is still the greatest quarterback playing right now. But again, I don't know if they're defensively good enough. And I think if they go up against a team like Tennessee with that offense, they're going to be able to put up a lot of points. Again, so is Kansas City. I think just going based off history, especially teams that lose the Super Bowl, it's hard for them to get back as well. So I'm going to go with the Tennessee Titans. Now for the NFC, obviously the Dallas Cowboys are my favorite team, so I'm going to try to not be as biased as possible. But again, that's going to be pretty hard because, again, I am a Cowboys fan. They do have a good roster. I do think they're going to win tonight, though, so we'll see. No one's really given Dallas a chance tonight, which I can't understand why. Dallas is a good roster, especially offensively, so I think they do have enough to win. So we'll see how that game shakes out. So my number 1 seed might surprise some of you. I'm actually going to go with the Los Angeles Rams. I do think that from top to bottom in the NFC, they may have the best roster. I think that after a couple games of Matt Stafford, people will realize that Stafford is an elite quarterback still. He just had a raw deal in Detroit where you didn't really have much talent around you. But I think in Los Angeles, he's going to get more hype because they're going to be a winning football team, and people are going to see how good of a quarterback he really is. You probably have the top 2 defenders in the NFL on their roster, right? Aaron Donald, who is definitely clearly the best defender in the league, and Jalen Ramsey as a cornerback is, arguably the best corner in the league, which makes him one of the top defenders in the league. So even though they lost a couple guys, the safeties, I think it's not enough of a loss to where they're not still going to be a very good defense. I think last year they were the number 1 ranked defense. So even if they fall from number 1 in like our top 5 defense, that is still an elite defense to go with an offense that was good last year with Jared Goff behind the helm. I think with Matt Stafford, they could be even better. Number 2, I'm going to go with Green Bay. Again, very talented roster, 2 back-to-back NFC Championship games, Really not much else to say. If Aaron Rodgers didn't come back, obviously a different story. But now that he's back, even though he didn't train in the offseason in terms of with his guys, get some practice reps, I don't think they really need it. Number 3, I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Again, like I said, I think they're going to win the division. I think it's going to be hard for them to be a 1 or 2 seed. I think people forget they won 11 games last year. So they didn't win as many games as people think. They just had a very good postseason run. I think that this year they could win probably a similar amount of games, 11 or 12. Number 4 seed, obviously the last of the division winners, I'm going to go with the Dallas Cowboys. So again, trying not to be a homer here with the pick, trying to go with what I think is actually going to happen, not just based on the team that I root for. So with the wildcard teams, I think the San Francisco 49ers are going to be the 5th seed. I do have, again, the big shocker was Carolina Panthers. I think they're going to be able to get that 6th seed, and I have Minnesota just barely squeaking into the playoffs as the 7th seed. So quickly, let me get into playoff matchups. Actually, the number 2 seed Green Bay Packers are going to rematch the Minnesota Vikings as a 7th seed for, again, the 3rd time because they're in the same division. I do have Green Bay winning that game at home in Lambeau Field. I think it's going to be a very close game, I think, because if you look at the Minnesota Vikings offense, they are very talented as well. You have a top 5 back in Dalvin Cook. You have 2 Pro Bowl caliber wide receivers in Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. I know everyone doesn't really like Kirk Cousins, but he's good enough to get it done with the offensive weapons that he has. But ultimately, I do like the Green Bay Packers in that one. So the second matchup is actually another divisional rematch. I have the Tampa Bay Bucks playing the Carolina Panthers. So I'm actually going to go with a huge shocker here. I think that the Carolina Panthers are going to be able to win the football game. Again, even though the Bucks are coming off the Super Bowl, they brought back 22 starters. That could be a good thing. It could also not be, right? Because that means every single player that came back as a starter, they all have already won a Super Bowl ring. So Will complacency set in? Obviously, it won't set in with Tom Brady. We already understand that. But the rest of the roster. So obviously, we'll see in those first couple weeks. But again, like you guys, if you've watched this channel enough, I think that Sam Darnold is a much better quarterback than people think. So I think if you look at that roster, I think the defense is going to be a lot better. A lot of those defensive players were, again, drafted rookies last year and the year before. So a lot of young players, so that means you could potentially have a defense significantly improved this year. And again, the offense has a lot of weapons for Sam Darnold to use, where he had none of that in New York. So I think their offense could be a very scary top 10 offense. And then the last wildcard matchup is the Dallas Cowboys as the 4 seed going up against the San Francisco 49ers. Again, I think it's going to be a very tough game. The San Francisco 49ers front seven is one of the best, if not the best in the league. But again, if Dallas's offense can stay healthy, they have still a really good offensive line. So that'll be an intriguing matchup. At the end of the day, I do pick the Dallas Cowboys to win. Like I said, I'm going to try to be not a homer pick as much as possible. I just think that the receivers that the Dallas Cowboys have, I don't think they're as strong, the 49ers that is, on the back end. So I don't know if they're going to be able to hold up against the Dallas Cowboys receivers. Now, the interesting part is how many points are the Niners going to be able to score? Because we all understand that Jimmy G as a quarterback is not that great, but their running game is very good. But I personally think that Dallas's run D is going to be pretty good this year. If the linebackers can stay healthy, you got guys like Micah Parsons, Jalen Smith, and Leighton Vander Esch. So you got 3 young linebackers that can all move, and I think that will greatly improve the rush defense of the Dallas Cowboys. Ultimately, I just think it's a bad matchup for the Niners, facing an offense that's as explosive as Dallas, with a defense that's really not great in the secondary, but should be very good in the front seven. I think will give the Niners enough problems to where maybe Dallas could squeak out a victory. So that's got the second round looking like the Rams going up against the Carolina Panthers. Again, I think the Rams are one of the best teams in the league. I actually am going to have the Rams winning that game. And then in the second matchup, I have Green Bay going up against the Dallas Cowboys. Now, obviously, I like the Packers as a team. I love Aaron Rodgers, he's a great quarterback, but I hate the fucking Packers. They have knocked Dallas out of the playoffs too many times with Aaron Rodgers. The whole Tony Romo, Des Bryant, that's a catch thing. And the year Dak Prescott was a rookie, he was the number 1 seed, and Green Bay comes in and beats us. So a lot of bad, negative experiences with losing to Green Bay in the playoffs. With that being said, again, this could be a little bit of a homer pick. I am going to go with the Dallas Cowboys. Again, I think that it's a lot of pressure that's going to be put on the Green Bay Packers just as a franchise after everything that happened in the offseason. Devontae Adams is a free agent. Is he going to sign an extension or not? Right? Is this Aaron Rodgers' last year? Where is Aaron Rodgers going to go? I think it's a lot to have to deal with for the whole season, and I think it's going to, really be a lot of pressure for them during the regular season, and then when you get in the playoffs, it's going to be even more pressure because this is potentially Aaron Rodgers' last game in a Green Bay uniform, and I think that's going to cause a lot of pressure. Now, obviously, it can go both ways. He can play phenomenal, which I don't really see him not playing good, but I think for the rest of the team, you could definitely go here with the Green Bay Packers. I just, again, wanted to go with Dallas. Again, it could be a little bit of a homer pick, but again, I also think that it's very tough for the top 2 seeds to make the conference championship on both sides. Usually one team gets upset. So with the NFC Championship game, I have the Rams and the Cowboys, and I'm going to go with the Rams. Again, like I said, I'm trying not to be as much of a homer, right? Could just have Dallas win the Super Bowl. So we're going to go with the Rams. I think the Rams, from top to bottom, probably have the best team in the NFC. And like I said, I think Matthew Stafford is a good enough quarterback to where when he faces guys like Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, he doesn't have as much of a gap as people think, and I think the talent on the Rams roster is better than the other 2 teams. I think slightly, Green Bay does have a very talented roster, and so do the Bucs, but I think if you look at the Rams roster, especially defensively, they are better. So now, obviously, for the Super Bowl matchup, we're going to have the Tennessee Titans and the Los Angeles Rams, which is weird because the second I saw that on paper, I'm like, wow, it's kind of like 99 when the Tennessee Titans and the Rams played. Now, hopefully for Tennessee Titans fans, it doesn't end like the 99 Super Bowl did, where it was, I think it was Andrew Dyson on the 1-yard line, got tackled. He tried to extend the ball, and he was literally a yard short. It was literally one of the craziest plays and endings to a Super Bowl you'll ever see. Unfortunately, I didn't really see it live. I was born in 1992, so I was only 7 years old when that game was played. I really wasn't watching football then, but I did watch reruns, of course, so I've seen it. But now, obviously, it's time to pick a winner. Again, you got the Tennessee Titans, very, very good offensively, almost like very hard to stop. Like, what are you supposed to do? How are you supposed to guard them? Defensively, kind of a little weak there with the Rams. I think they're just a very balanced team. I'm actually going to go with the Rams to win the Super Bowl. That's going to be my pick for the winner. And I just think if you just look at the Super Bowl perspective of those two teams, if you look at just matchups, you may just go into that game saying, you know what, Jalen Ramsey, we're just going to put you on Julio, and you're just going to have to guard him by yourself, right? Like, even if you think A.J. Brown is the better receiver, you may just put Jalen Ramsey on Julio Jones because you can now use one of the safeties to double A.J. Brown and use the other safety to put in the box to stop Derrick Henry, right? So if you have an elite corner, which obviously the Rams have, you're able to maybe play in a way that could contain the Titans a little bit. So now Julio Jones is going to have to win his one-on-one matchup with a prime Jalen Ramsey, who's only like 26, 27 years old. I think that's a recipe where the Rams could potentially get some stops. And then on the opposite end, I think it's going to be very difficult to stop that Rams offense. With Sean McVay, we already know he is a genius play caller. I don't think Tennessee's defense is particularly very good. I don't think they're going to be as bad as they were, but I don't think they're particularly good. So I think all that really makes me having the Rams as the Super Bowl winners for this season. So again, that's going to do it for the video. Obviously, feel free to maybe just comment who you think is going to be in the Super Bowl and maybe your winner as well. And feel free to maybe just try this out for yourself and just see who you think is going to get to the playoffs and how do you think the playoffs are going to shake out. This way you can kind of look back on it to see where you were at. I know that's what I'm most excited about, actually, is looking at this video, and maybe I'll do a recap when the season is over and just kind of flash back to this video to see how many teams did I get right and which teams were I way off on and which teams were I correct on. But again, that's the end of the video. If you made it this far, make sure to leave a like and also subscribe, as they do help the channel out a lot. But again, at this point, I don't think I'm going to have the video out probably before the first game is played. I'm recording this in the morning. I have some stuff to do during the day, and obviously I'm not going to edit it during the Cowboys game, so it'll probably be out after. But definitely, hopefully, be out before Sunday. I don't think I'm going to be that lazy. I'm going to make sure I do get the video out. But the next video you see will be probably after the Week 1 games have been played. So look forward to the opening weekend of Sunday. And football season's back. Super excited. Have a good one.